Okay, shutter clickers. Today we're going to school. We're going to learn the principles of photography. So I want you to sit up straight. Johnny, sit up straight and quit bothering Cherie. Paul, quit passing notes in class. Now sit up, young man. Good question? Yes. Yes, Thomas. Yes, Thomas. Why is my desk in such a state of chaos? Listen to me, Mr. Thomas. I'm so clean and neat, Heaton. This is not chaos. This is organized. Now you sit up straight. Comb your hair. Comb your hair. All right, let's get started here. Now I got notes here somewhere. I got some notes. Let's see, notes. Where's my notes? I know I have some notes here. Where's my notes? Where's my notes? All right, shutter clickers, let's cut out the nonsense and let's get to the lessons here. Now I want you to understand, I'm just giving you the principles. I'm not going to go into a lot of in-depth detail about what each one means. You're an adult, you can look on the internet for yourself. But I want you to know that there's more to taking a typical snapshot and making it into a photograph than meets the eye. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So you might want to take some notes, sit back and listen, and let's get started. Okay, this is a typical photographer's triangle that you see on internet websites. F-stop, shutter speed, ISO. And this is a very good triangle. But I don't think this should be our first triangle that we look at. And let me show you why. Okay, I think this should be the basic photographer's triangle. Composition, camera settings, and light. And each one of these positions has its own triangle. And the one we just looked at previous to this was the camera settings. So let's go back and let's take each one of these corners and talk about each one and what they represent and why. Alright, this is the settings triangle. Top corner is f-stop, shutter speed, ISO. This is all about knowing your camera. Knowing your camera and how each one of these settings will affect your photograph. Let's talk about f-stop for just a second here now. F-stop is that number like f8, f11, you know, whatever. And most lenses will get down to like an f4, or if the more expensive lenses will go down to a f1.8, 2.4, this sort of thing. And all the way up to an f22. I have one lens that's f32. Now what does that mean? Well, think of it as fractions. 1/2 is bigger than 1/4. So the f1.8, the lens is open more than if you have a f22. f1.8 has a very shallow depth of field. That's where it starts focus and where your picture ends its focus. f22 has a very large depth of field, and each setting has its own little caveat. A very large depth of field is great, but the corners and the far distances may not be tack sharp focus. f1.8, your subject, you know, you focus on the eye like you're taking a photograph of a person. You'd focus on their eye would be in real sharp focus, and the background would be out of focus. We call that bokeh, and it really makes your subject stand out. Alright, that's enough on that one. Shutter speed. Shutter speed is how fast your shutter clicks. So 1/320th of a second is a whole lot faster than a 1/2 a second. That's how long your shutter is open. And that's of course determined on what you're taking a picture of. If you're taking a picture of your kids playing in the yard, you might want a high shutter speed, like a 1/320th or 1/600, even 1,000th of a second, like for pets and stuff like that playing in the yard. A slow shutter speed would be taking a picture of like something stationary, like a mountain or trees or forest, or maybe it's a landscape shot. And as you increase your shutter speed, you're going to need more light, so you have to increase your f-stop. You have to get a lower number. You may have to take it all the way down to an f1.8. So you got to adjust these together. All right, the other corner is ISO. ISO is what? That's the sensitivity of the camera. And as you take a picture, the lower the number, the less sensitive it is, and the better your picture will be. That seems to be backwards thinking, but it isn't. Those high ISO settings, like 6400, will put a lot of, they call it noise, looks like grain in your picture. Now you can take that out in post-processing, but when you do, you're actually removing pixels, and that softens your image. So the lower your ISO, typically the better your picture will be. Now you need to go on the internet and look at each one of these: f-stop, shutter speed, and ISO, and know your camera. Get out your manual, look at it. I'm not going to go into in-depth here on this. You can do this for yourself. We're all adults here, right? Alright, let's look at the next triangle. Okay, this triangle is what I call the photographer's light triangle, and you have soft light, reflected light, and direct light. And this triangle has the light has the greatest impact on the emotion of the picture. You can make a picture dark and dreary, or you can make one bright and lively. It all depends on the light. So let's just briefly talk about each corner. Soft light. What is soft light? It's like a cloudy day, or maybe a deep shade. Not open shade, but solid shade. That would be soft light. And that would require a larger f-stop. You have to start going down, not going up in numbers. Reflected light. What is reflected light? Well, an expert on reflected light is a fellow named Ben Horn, and you should go and look at Ben Horn's vlog. He is an expert. He takes some beautiful pictures of reflected light. He goes to Mount Zion National Park, and a lot of deep canyons there, and he gets up early in the morning, and as the light comes in and it hits a canyon wall, it'll reflect light to the other side of the canyon, and he takes that other side picture and gets beautiful shots with reflected light. That's what reflected light is. Photographers, you'll see them use it. They have them big shiny screens that someone will be holding up to reflect light on somebody's face as they're taking a portrait. That's reflected light. What's direct light? Well, that's obvious. Direct light is direct sunshine. Or direct light would be a flash. That's direct light. Direct light is the harshest. It's the hardest to deal with. It's very hard to get a good picture when you have a lot of direct light. But just remember about light. Light can be everything. A fellow by the name of Ansel Adams, you've probably seen some of his black and white pictures. He done a lot of post-processing on his pictures, but the first and most important thing was how he used light. So light can mean everything to a photograph. Do some study work on that. Okay, here's our last triangle. I call this the composition triangle. And I think this is the most important triangle of all. This is where you come in. This is all about you. This is all about you seeing in your mind what the photograph is going to look like after you take it. So let's look at each corner. First corner is perspective. That's your view, how you view it, and how you look at the subject. I think, to me, that's the most important corner. And why I say that is because first and foremost, you've got to like the picture. You're taking the picture for yourself.
you're setting up a catalog of memories. And so your perspective, how you want it to look, is probably the most important thing you can do. Secondly is subject matter. Now, you know, like the old saying, it's hard to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You know, it can't be done. But so subject matter is very, very important. You can't go into the woods and take a picture of a tree and have it represent the entire woods. You know, you can't go downtown and do street photography and take a picture of somebody like me and expect it to be dramatic. You know, I'm not that dramatic looking. But some old guy sitting on the sidewalk playing a banjo or a guitar or something like that with a lot of character in his face, that may be a good subject. You know, so you have to pick and choose what you're going to take a picture of. And sometimes simple and less is better than complicated and more. So subject matter, very, very important. You know, you can't live in Arkansas and take pictures of the Rocky Mountains. You got to go to the Rocky Mountains if you want pictures of the Rocky Mountains. You know, that's subject matter. Okay, lastly is rules. The last part of that triangle is rules. Rule of thirds. Now you probably know what that is if you've been watching me at all. That's where you divide your picture up into like a tic-tac-toe game, and you're to put your subject on one of those corners where they crosshair. That's a rule. You know, that gives the greatest impact. If a runner is running from left to right, you don't want to put him way over on the right side of your picture because he has nowhere to run. You want to capture him on the left side of your picture so that he has space to run into. You know, your mind, as it looks at a picture like that, wants to see where the runner is going. It doesn't want to see where the runner's been. Horizons is another rule. You know, it's rare, very rare, where a picture will look good if the horizon is across the center line. You know, if the foreground is important, you want the horizon towards the top of the picture. If it's the clouds, the sunset that's important, you want the horizon towards the bottom of the picture. So that's composition, and to me, composition is really important. You know, take a picture with a cheap camera, you know, like an old Brownie Hawkeye, which, you know, they don't make anymore, but that's just, I'm getting hyperbolic here. But you can take a picture with a cheap camera, and it may not be the best quality picture. It may not be something you can blow up to an 11 by 14, but if the composition's right, it can be a great photograph for you. And so composition is all about taking snapshots and converting them into real photographs. And I don't know about you, but I got boxes full of old snapshots that I wished I'd have taken the time to get a really good picture, making that snapshot into a photograph. Alright, let's go back and one more time now and look at our original triangle. Okay, here we are back to our basic photographer's triangle. We have composition, camera settings, light. Probably the most important thing on the screen is practice, practice, practice. You know, you can't walk outside and head out to a national park and expect to take great photographs if you haven't practiced. So I highly recommend, first of all, that you look up on the internet and do an in-depth study of composition, of camera settings, of light. You know, all kinds of blogs that talks about these things for hours and hours and hours. A lot of good ones at you know, just 15-20 minutes, and you get a good basic understanding of each one of these elements. And then you need to go outside in your own backyard and practice. Practice with your camera settings. Learn all about your camera. You know, look at the light. Go out different times of the day. take a picture of the same thing at different hours of the day and see how light affects that one object. And of course, composition. Look in your backyard. I've got a blog out there that talks about photography in your own backyard. Try to get a composition in your own backyard. Make something exciting out of your photographs, out of your pictures. Make them into photographs. Don't just take snapshots anymore. Like I said, I've got boxes full of snapshots that nobody wants to look at. Nothing more boring than to look at a bunch of pictures that, well, they don't really mean a whole lot. Those are okay for Instagram and for Facebook, which someone looks at for 2 seconds and moves on. But if you want something that creates a sense of emotion, that brings up memories, that records something special to you, you need to learn to take photographs and not just snapshots. So thank you for watching, as always, and I'd appreciate if you'd subscribe and share. That's subscribership and sharing is what makes me feel like I'm appreciated. I don't do these things solely for myself. I do them to help you. I'm learning. Remember, my slogan is I'm learning for you. So again, thanks for watching, and in the meantime, you know what to do. You gotta keep that shutter clicking. Bye now.